What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride.
Hey, hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of What If You Could. And today I'm breaking my no real estate rule because I've got a long-term friend of mine who I just adore, who his story is real estate, but it's so much more. So it's my good friend, Brian Gooding. Hey, Big Brian.
Hey Gary, how you doing, buddy?
I'm living the dream. You know that.
That's
Always living
good.
the dream. Oh,
Yeah,
that's why I love
awesome.
you. You're always living the dream too.
I'm trying.
So I'm just going to read a quick little bio for Brian. Now, of course, his bio is so much more extensive because his history in real estate. He's just got a really extensive bio. He's had a lot of success, but I don't care about that. So I'm going to go to. So Brian Gooding is a seasoned professional with over 40 years in the real estate business, operating in California, Oregon, and even the Cayman Islands. Brian brings a wealth of experience, especially in high-end resort projects across stunning locales like Palm Springs, St. Kitts, Virgin Gorda, one of my favorite places in the world, and the Caribbean's own Cayman Islands. And Brian also has extensive knowledge in leadership positions with Keller Williams, Sotheby's, who's an owner at Windermere, blew that up when he brought that to Palm Desert. And now Brian is vice president of C21 affiliate Fine Homes and Estates in California. But there's a whole circus and the whole events of how all that happened, right, Brian?
Right. Yeah, definitely.
I never have a lot of questions on these podcasts. I really don't because the guest reveals questions as we go along, but I guess one of the really only few questions I have is how many places have you lived?
That's a great question. So I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, right outside of D.C. in Maryland. And I moved to California with my ex-wife when I was in my mid-20s. And I actually, Gary, I don't know if you remember this, but I worked at Desert Horizons Country Club. And I went there, and I worked in Indian Wells for years, and then went out, left, and sold real estate on my own. I became vice president of sales of Desert Horizons, and we sold memberships, resales, new homes, and that was a blast. That was one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. I mean, when I interviewed for the job back then, I was an avid golfer, and I went in to interview for the guy, and he goes, you have to. I just moved to California. He says part of the job is playing golf with the members, and I just started pinching myself. I'm like, really? It was December or something, and I just moved from Maryland, and I just to play golf in December was fun. So that was a wonderful experience. I met so many wonderful people, so many high net worth individuals from all over the country who come to the greater Palm Springs area, and just I learned so much from them, and it really shaped my career. I was fortunate to continue in luxury real estate, but I'm not from that background. My dad was a fireman. My mom stayed at home. We didn't belong to a country club. In fact, I grew up playing golf, sneaking on Congressional Country Club back in Bethesda, Maryland with my buddies. We
That's
hopped the fence
awesome.
and got our clubs over and started to play when I was like 16, 17. But yeah, so that was a lot of fun. And then, and I ended up on 3 different Caribbean islands doing real estate projects. And I feel extremely fortunate, that I got to do that during my working career, which I'm still working. But, people I just met so many cool people in the Caribbean. I mean, if we're all our friends, my wife Jenny and I, you've met Jenny, Gary. My wife Jenny and I, when we were in California, all our friends were going to Cabo and Hawaii, and we're like, we like the Caribbean. And the first kind of trip we ever took together was to the island of St. Lucia. We just loved it. And it's a long story, but I got recruited to go to St. Kitts to a big project there. And then once you get into that space, kind of, they keep coming after you because we're crazy enough to move there and schlep your family to a Caribbean island. So just, it was just an incredible experience dealing with, like, again, high end people and just getting to know them and meeting people that I would have never met if it wasn't for these incredible experiences that we had.
Wait, what year did you start at Desert Island?
Well, Desert
I mean,
Horizons,
Desert Horizons, yeah.
1985,
85.
the
Because
end
I
of
think
85.
we crossed paths and like I started in 1990 out here in real estate, and I think we crossed paths around 90 or 91, I believe. Didn't hang out a lot. We weren't really friends or anything, but I just always thought the world of you, and that's why when you called me to come to Windermere, I was like, done deal. And I still want that bottle of wine from friggin' Mark, man. I can't believe he got that wine.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That's
It was like the number one bottle of wine of the year or something. I remember that. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
ask you about Congressional because that's a big time golf course. They've done
Yeah.
some U.S. Opens there
Yeah.
and PGA championships
Yeah.
there. How did you sneak onto a course like that?
All right. So I had a friend that I went to high school with. His name was Chris Dunn, who was his family was a member there. And so he knew all the secrets. So we would go there in the summer when it stayed light till 8:30. We'd go there. They actually had what's called a caddy master. And the caddy master, and his name was Jocko Miller. I remember this. This is a long time ago, but everybody knew Jocko, and the members and everything. They loved him, and he was the guy who checked you in, and and told you when you were teeing off. And we would just go in, and sometimes we kind of sneak in. Sometimes we just drive in, grab our clubs, and we'd always go up. Jocko supposedly left at 4:15 every day, like clockwork. So we'd get there about 4:30. And if there was nobody on the first tee, we'd walk over to the first tee and just play. And I probably played, I don't know, Congressional's probably going to be mad if they ever see this podcast, but I probably played there 50, 60, 70 times when I was
Wow.
16, 17, 18, 19, just playing it. And it was amazing because I mean it is still to this day. And then as I got older, I had friends that actually became members and invited me to play and member guests and stuff. But still to this day, one of my favorite golf courses. It's a great golf course.
Oh, it's phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it in the U.S. Open, and they would just tear these guys up. It's funny because our son just moved to Maryland.
Oh,
He
yeah.
works at Andrews Air Force Base. He runs the
Yeah.
K-9 there. And so we're going to fly out to Maryland to see him in January. But yeah, Congressional's a big deal. I'm going to have to, he knows a lot of mucky mucks because being on Andrew,
Yeah.
the people who fly in and out of Andrews play at Congressional. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
right.
saying? So
Yeah, I do.
I'll have to
Yeah.
see if he can get me on. So
Yeah,
that,
right.
yeah, that's a really cool story. I love
Yeah.
that. And when people say, "Oh, do you go to Hawaii? Do you love Hawaii?" I'm like, "No, man, it's Caribbean all day
Yeah.
long. Caribbean just spanks Hawaii."
Yeah. Well, I know you're a diver, Gary, and I'm a snorkeler, but the diving in all those places, I know you've been to a few of them, is fantastic. And the experience we had, like I said, I'm so fortunate to be able to spend 7 years of my life. We schlepped to the island of St. Kitts. I mean, I think you'll like this story, Gary. So, I was working as a general manager of Windermere in San Diego. Was very happy, to be honest with you. And somebody who knew of what I'd done at Desert Horizon said, "Hey, there's this company out of South Carolina, and they are looking for someone to run their real estate project, super high-end resort golf project in Palm Beach. And would you be interested?" And I said, "Well, I'm actually going back east to visit my son who's up in New Hampshire, so sure, I'll check it out." So I was interviewing with them, and before I left the house or the hotel room, my wife Jenny goes, "Hey, did you see on the website that they have a project that's coming up on the island of St. Kitts?" And I go, "I did, yeah." She goes, "Well, you need to ask about that." I go, "I'm not going to ask about that. That's not what I'm interviewing for. I'm interviewing for the job in Palm Beach." And she goes, "No, you need to ask, find out." And I go, "No, I'm not going to. That's not proper." And so we got into an argument about it. Finally, I said, "Okay, sure, honey, I'll ask." So about 2/3 of the way through the interview, and they found out that I'd worked at this golf club, and I said, "Hey, I saw that you guys had a project in St. Kitts." They go, "Yeah, it's going to be our best project. It's going to be an Auberge resort. There's going to be a Park Hyatt built there, Tom Fazio golf course." And they said, "Would you be interested in talking about that?" I go, "Sure." So next thing I knew, the day after Christmas, 2007, schlepped my family without ever seeing the island to St. Kitts. Shay, my daughter, was a little over 1, never seen the island, never saw the place I was going to live at. And we spent 3 really cool years in St. Kitts on that project. And, we were there in 8, 9, 10, not good years in real estate. And people kept saying, "So you just left when everything hit the fan in California." I go, "Nobody knew it was going to hit the fan, and I'm sorry that I was, drinking champagne on yachts while you were being foreclosed, but it wasn't me."
Don't hate me because I'm beautiful. I mean, come on. So
We were really, really lucky to have that time, especially in a time where real estate in most of the world wasn't very good. Like I said, I feel very fortunate.
But there's something about St. Kitts that you said was very special. What was that story about St. Kitts that you wanted to share with me?
Well, there's a lot of special stories about St. Kitts. I don't want to bore your audience, but one of the fun ones is that St. Kitts had about 25,000 people on the island, and there were actually more monkeys than people on the island. And they were everywhere. I mean, you couldn't go more than 3 or 4 days without seeing monkeys. And as the story goes, told by many of the locals we met, this was an island that it's a British island that then became independent. So it's their own island. And the story is that the British and the French fought for the island years ago, and French had it, British had it, and finally the British took it over. And the French would keep these monkeys as kind of like pets, like Paris Hilton used to have her little dog in her purse. So they would have these monkeys as pets, but when the monkeys got out, they would eat all the crops. And actually, St. Kitts was a sugar island. And so when the British had it and the French realized they were going to have to, relinquish control of the island and move, they let all the monkeys go as a way of going like this to the British. And that's the story. So the monkeys just went wild, and now there's 30,000 monkeys in St. Kitts. But fun story.
The French, man, they'll do that to you. Sorry, all my French fans out there. But yeah, you guys will release monkeys. That is not.
And I heard
one
that
of my
story.
one of my favorite saying is, "It's not my circus, not my monkeys." But in St. Kitts, that's the real deal. Um, that's funny though. I love that.
Another
It's
thing,
funny.
Gary, that I think
Yeah.
would be interesting. We've shared a lot of stories when we worked together years ago, but it was a sugar island. I mean, that was their crop. And in the early 2000s, late 90s, they became a tourism island because sugar was there was a lot more sugar in other parts of the world, I guess I should say. And the people that were working the crops, and they were just a wonderful group of people, by the way. We loved the locals, Kittians, as they called them. They weren't used to tourism.
What did they call them?
Kittians.
Kittians.
St.
For
Kitts,
St. Kitts.
Kittians.
All right,
Yeah.
cool.
So, but when you would go to a restaurant, they didn't really have any training as to how to, serve. Like, you and I go to a restaurant in Palm Desert, they're going to go, "Hi, my name's Brian. I'll be your server today. And what would you like to drink?" Well, they would just come to the table and look at you. And you'd be like, "Hello?" And so, Jenny and I used to say, if we wanted 2 glasses of wine, you had to order them when they finally came to your table, because you'd never see them again. So,
We better get a bottle because we're not
greatest
going to
people
see.
in the world, super nice, but had not really been trained on how to handle tourism. I'm sure now, 2024, they're much better, but great group of people, and a lot of fun. And everywhere you went, you could go to, and there weren't a lot of restaurants on the island, by the way. There weren't a lot, but everywhere you went, you would ask if they had any special. And I swear, Gary, every night, every restaurant, the special was mahi mahi. That was it.
Of course. But are there mahi mahi in those waters?
I think there's a lot of them.
Oh, okay. Because I'm thinking I know in Hawaii there's a lot of mahi mahi. I don't remember in the Caribbean there being a lot of mahi mahi. We were just in.
In fact, sometimes you could go to a restaurant because it was, an island that hadn't really caught up with some of the other islands with tourism. All they had was mahi mahi. Can I have a hamburger? No, the plane didn't come in. All we have is mahi mahi. So that was a great experience, because that was like really living off the grid. I mean, it was the other 2 islands I lived on were much more sophisticated, so to speak. But St. Kitts was an incredible experience, and it was awesome.
We in April, I think it was April or something like that. I don't remember. Sometime this year, I got to take my first trip in 2 years, dive trip, and we went to the U.S. Virgin Islands, and we stayed on St. Croix. And your monkey story is kind of like the chickens and the roosters in St. Croix. Basically, there are more chickens and roosters in St. Croix than people by a mile. I mean, they're everywhere. You'll just be sitting there having dinner, and one will just pop in the window and sit on your table and look at you. You got to throw them something to eat, but I just love that about that. So, everything they've got has got roosters and chickens all over it. But so St. Kitts, where is that in relation to, some of the other islands like British Virgin Islands or Caicos, Turks and Caicos and things like
So
that?
Turks and Caicos is a little closer to the Bahamas. St. Kitts, British Virgin Islands, you go down farther. It's not all the way down like almost to South America, Latin America, like Aruba, but it's down a little farther. Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, a lot of people go there because it's such a quick flight. Grand Cayman that we lived on was below Cuba, but also not that long of a flight from Miami. That was a very sophisticated island. It was almost like being in Miami.
So what were you selling in St. Kitts? It was a actual homes, condos?
Yeah, so it was a big resort project. And to be honest, the economic crash definitely hindered the sales process. We were initially, there was going to be an auberge resort and a Mandarin Oriental built there. Eventually, the property that was built was a Park Hyatt. There was a first class mega yacht harbor marina that was built, and they did build that. They never built the golf course. And then just mostly what we were doing was selling home sites. And we had, if I remember correctly, over 100 reservations in 2008 of people with deposits that were ready to go. It's a beautiful island, like most Caribbean islands. And then, the crash hit, stock market tanked. We actually sent those contracts out to people within a day or two of when Lehman Brothers went bankrupt and the world ended. And so for the next 2 years, we fought, and I think we ended up converting maybe 25 or 30 of those. Plus we got new ones, but it was work. It was hard work. I mean, we're in the Caribbean, so, it was fun to be there, but it was a tough time in real estate for sure.
Now you said it was or what was the name of the organization, the Oriental, the
Mandarin Oriental Hotel.
Mandarin Oriental. Okay, so that's not your first rodeo with them, and it's not your first crash and burn with them, right? Because then when you ended up, just to jump, I want to go way back, but because we're on this subject, you were on a project on St. Kitts when the world came to an end with the Great Depression.
Yeah, and that was the Mandarin, yeah.
The Mandarin, but then weren't they the ones who you also went to just before COVID?
Yep. During COVID, I went to Grand Cayman to build a Mandarin Oriental that has not been built yet.
Yeah. So I'm thinking no more Mandarin Oriental for you. I think
probably not.
I think they're bad luck for you.
I got to stay a few of them at, gratis. So that was fun. And it's an incredible hotel, so, going back to St. Kitts before I forget.
Yeah.
I think the cool thing, Gary, for my family and my kids growing up a little bit in St. Kitts, especially my son Quentin, because Shay was so young, she doesn't remember. But this was, we drove a car that was provided by the company, but it wasn't a Range Rover or anything. And it was everybody there on Friday nights went to this little stretch of sand, and there were just rum shacks, and we all went to this place called Shiggity Shack. That was the name of the place. We drank rum out of a plastic cup. There was a drink that everybody drank called Ting with a Sting, and Ting is like a Sprite, and it's Ting with rum, and that's what you drank. And then lobster that was just caught for like $20, and everybody's barefoot, and you're standing next to the person that washes your car and the person who owns half the things on the island. It was super cool. Everybody got along. Nobody cared what you did, and it was a great experience for especially my son Quentin, who's now 26, because just nobody gave a hoot what you did for a living. They were just there to have fun, and everybody mingled with everybody. That's my kind of takeaway from St. Kitts. It was like, it just didn't matter. Everybody just kind of liked everybody, if that makes sense.
I fell in love. I was lucky enough to go to British Virgin Islands in 1980 when I got certified. I went with some friends. We went on a yacht for a week traveling around the British Virgin Islands, and this family I went with got in a big blowout fight, and so they left. They're like, we're leaving. I'm like, wait a minute, we're supposed to be here 3 weeks. You're like, nah, I hate my mom, and I'm like, no. So it just so happened that my friend Ron Buda, I hope he hears this, he was our water polo coach and swim coach for me and my friend Susie, who I went with Susie with the family to the island. So I look at him and I'm like 17, right? And he's, our swim coach has got to be in his late 30s or something, right? I go, Buddha, I don't want to go home. Do you want to go home? He's like, no, I don't want to go home either. So we bummed around the British Virgin Islands, just like catching rides with other boats and living wherever we could. It was the greatest 2 weeks of my life. But
That's awesome.
Like you said, I mean, we were in Virgin Gorda, and I mean, literally, people would throw up, not like the yachts they have now, these super yachts, but I mean, people would show up on $1 million yachts and go onto the thing, and we'd be partying with people who, we had nothing, and they were hugely wealthy. It didn't matter. It was just the Caribbean's got such a great vibe.
I think all of that pretentiousness, to a certain extent, when you get to the Caribbean, goes down. Everybody's walking around barefoot. It's just like, and this is, I'm not trying to drop names because, like I said, I'm just lucky that I got this. But in Virgin Gorda, where, I worked for a year, and that was probably our favorite island. The best experiences were St. Kitts. There was only 2,500 people in Virgin Gorda. So literally everybody knew everybody. I mean, my wife, I called her the mayor of Virgin Gorda because we didn't go anywhere that she didn't know somebody. But I've met Richard Branson a couple of times. Jenny's one of her best friends there. Her husband was Richard Branson's right-hand guy on Necker Island, which is right across from Virgin Gorda. We went over there a couple of times, and you would see Richard Branson walking around Virgin Gorda barefoot down the street. I mean, it was like, I don't know, the paparazzi couldn't get there. It's a tough island to get to. You got to fly into Tortola, you got to take a boat, or another small plane, so it's just not that easy to get to. But it was definitely, I met the guy who invented Skype. We sold a property to a baseball player that just signed $125 million contract. But all of it is, nobody cared.
Yeah.
Everybody was just there to kind of chill. And that I really enjoyed that. It was a great experience in my life to be on those islands. Grand Cayman was a little different. That was a little more sophisticated, a lot more money everywhere. Jenny and I by far were the poorest people in Grand Cayman.
Well, I'll tell you what, Sir Richard Branson is one of my all-time favorite. I've probably got 5 of his books right
I got one
behind
right
me.
over here. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just devour his books. They're little, but they're just on leadership, on taking chances, and that story about Necker Island. I'm sure you know it really well, but it's a great story how he acquired Necker Island. I mean, literally, he had nothing. Virgin Records was barely doing anything.
Yeah.
This is way before Virgin Atlantic and all that stuff, and he hoodwinked his way into that for like $3 million, and he goes like, I got like 37 pounds to my name.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get him $3 million to buy this island.
I know.
And now it's like to rent it. I think it's like $100,000 a day or something to rent it.
It's crazy. And people do rent it for the week. And then there's, so, and it's a pretty special place, and his main house on that island, I think, is burned down twice.
Oh.
And I think maybe it burned down once. I remember, I wasn't there then, but the story is that Kate Winslet was there when his main house burned down, and she carried his mother down the stairs while the house was burning.
Wow.
And then I think it was also destroyed in the hurricane that hit in like 2000, maybe 15, 16. So that's the one thing, living in the Caribbean, that's the one thing you've always got in the back of your mind once June hits through October is like, where are the hurricanes? So
yeah,
we
know that for sure. But so Kate Winslow could save Sir Branson's mother, but couldn't save Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, what's up with that? Honestly, that's horrible, man. Should let the guy drown. So, did you get to sit on Sir Richard Branson's toilet that is outside overlooking the ocean? Did you get to use that one?
I did not use that one. No.
You know the one I'm talking about, there, right?
I've heard about that, but I haven't seen it. Yeah.
There's a great picture of Mariah Carey sitting on it, and it's literally just the old crapper's just sitting out there, just with this epic view. I mean, who does not?
He's a different duck, but he's awesome. He also we lived in Virgin Gorda and up on a hill. And by the way, the hurricane that hit after we left, like 2-3 years after we left, we lived in an area called Frigate Bay, and people showed us pictures. The house that we lived in was just foundation.
Wow.
It was completely wiped out. But we had a view across the way at an island that he bought, and he built like 15 or 20 homes on for the super wealthy, because they were really expensive, on 10, 15, 20 million. But the island was called Mosquito Island. And I'm thinking they should have named it a better island.
I know the island, yeah.
Yeah. Because that's the one thing. The two things about the Caribbean that were not good are the potential of a hurricane and mosquitoes. In fact, Jenny used to say her perfume of choice was Eau de Off.
DEET works better, by the way. DEET's better than off, because my wife is I love to travel with her to mosquito-infested places because I never get bitten, because they go right to her. They just, I don't know. They just don't eat me, but they just eat her all the time. So when I was in Virgin Gorda, I don't remember anyone living on the island. This was 1980. So you actually lived on Virgin Gorda?
Yeah, we did.
What the hell were you doing there?
Well, I was doing the project. The project there was not a branded hotel. A guy that I worked in St. Kitts with got a call, and they asked him if he knew anybody that would be interested in running a project in St. Kitts. And he goes, I don't think I'm interested, but you should call Brian Gooding. So the developer, super brilliant guy named David Johnson from Michigan, who built an awesome project called Bay Harbor in Michigan, called me, and we had a nice conversation. He brought Jenny and I to the island, and it was just, we said, yeah. So he's got a beautiful project there called Oil Nut Bay. You can look it up. It's spectacular. It's got beautiful water, incredible bay with some of the best water you could have. And he's built a he's got pickleball courts, tennis court, all the stuff that you want. And, it's basically a place for the rich, very high net worth people that are there for, 3 months. And he also built a super yacht marina. So you can bring your yacht in there and it's crazy the wealth that people have, Gary, because you could buy a marina slip for your 220-foot yacht for like $4 million. And people that did that would literally park their yacht there for 1 month a year, and then they buy a place at our place. And, I think he was selling, I think our most expensive property was like 50 million. And I don't know if it's ever sold to this day, but most of our properties he built some property. So you had some property you could build that usually went anywhere from 8 to 12 million. And then our home sites were anywhere from, I'd say like 3.5 to like 8 million. So, and then, it takes a while to build in the Caribbean. You can't just go down to the local Ace Hardware and pick up your stuff.
Now, there can't be a lot of developments on Virgin Gorda, is there? I mean, it's not that big of a place.
No, it's, you've got Oil Nut Bay has a great restaurant, and there's some good restaurants there. In Virgin Gorda, Jenny, again, my wife, when she went shopping, there was 5 kind of mom and pop grocery stores. She'd probably have to go to all 5. Back then, I was a big Diet Coke drinker. And this gal who worked with me, who was one of our concierges, she called me, and sometimes you couldn't find Diet Coke. She called me and she goes, there's like 5 cases of Diet Coke at, Joe's grocery store. I said, buy one for me right now, because you might not ever see it again. So
we're hoarding Diet Coke because we might not see it again, especially if the hurricane comes in.
If the boat didn't come in, you didn't have what you wanted.
Yeah. How long were you there on Virgin Gorda?
I was in Virgin Gorda for a year.
And then where was this resort in relation to the baths?
Okay, on the other side, it's on the peninsula. You can only get there by boat or heavy like golf carts with big tires. Wow. No cars. So I took a boat to work every day.
That's awesome.
Got picked up. Either my friend had a boat that lived actually right next to us who worked in the restaurant, and I was the director of sales. And sometimes I'd hop on if we were going at the same time, I'd hop a ride with him. But the company had a boat that picked about 3 or 4 people up. That's usually how I got to work. It's a different life. It was all good.
Did you guys get to the baths often?
Love the baths.
Amazing, right?
Amazing.
They still, I mean, when I was there, maybe they figured it out now, but at the time they had no idea how those stones got there, how those big ass boulders just appeared there. They weren't native to the island.
Yeah, it was amazing. Jenny started the first Girl Scouts ever in the British Virgin Islands.
She did what?
She started the first Girl Scouts because Shay was like 6 or 7. Yeah, and so she had like all of the people that were service people, working on different islands, like some of the workers at Necker Island. And, so all the girls got together. I think she had 10 or 12 little Girl Scouts. She went to the Girl Scouts of America, got permission, got the uniform sent in. It was adorable. All these little girls, walking around from all different places, some local, some from Canada, some from England, some from the US. All those islands are melting pots. And that's, as much as I love our country, and I do, we could learn a lot from some of those islands.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, one of the things that I love the most about the British Virgin Islands, that's why I just can't wait to go back, is, you can almost see them all. It's like they're all just like sticking out, it's like they're all so close and you could just hit them. I mean, they're all right there, but they're also individual and also beautiful. The only one that you really had to get out to was Anegada, to get out there. It was like outside of the circle.
That's a little bit of a hike. We went the Lobster Island.
Yes. Oh yeah. We went there.
Gary, did you go to
there was a bar and there was tables for lobster.
Yeah.
That was it.
When we went to Anegada, we were on the beach. It was in the hotter months, so that even though the islands aren't super populated, obviously like December through April, a lot more people there. But I'm gonna say it was October, and we went to Anegada. And it's a pretty long ferry to Anegada. Yeah. And literally there was hardly anyone there. I mean, we didn't see very many people. We were on the beach. There was nobody on this beach. It started to pour, so we ran into this open air restaurant. There was one woman with 2 young kids there. So we're literally, you remember Anegada? It's in the middle of nowhere.
Nowhere. Right?
I mean, there may be 500 people on the island.
Yeah, and if you miss it, you're in China or something.
Yeah,
I mean, if you miss
probably.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we started talking to this gal. We realized she's from the U.S. and she's from Encinitas.
Oh, that's great.
That's
crazy.
Gary, did you ever go to Jost Van Dyke?
Yeah.
The soggy dollar
We went to
bar.
Little Dick's, Joe's Van Dyke, Anagata, Virgin Gorda, obviously Tortuga, um, the Three Indians. We hit a lot of it. I mean,
Yeah.
me and Buddha, since we were bumming the island, right? We got dumped at this little tiny rock, and the only thing on this rock was this old couple's home, and they had a compressor to fill scuba tanks. So that's what they did for a living. Just the boats would pull up, they'd fill tanks, and the people would scoot. And so we got dumped on this island, and so we're like, you guys, we're gonna have to leave you here while we get our tanks filled because we're leaving. And we're like, oh crap! So the people let us stay for a couple days, and we slept on hammocks. We had no room, and the hammocks were over the ocean. I mean, literally, if that hammock broke, I'm in the sea, and who knows what's gonna happen. But it was the most amazing thing. So up comes Jean Michel Cousteau. That picture right there is me, Buddha, and Jean Michel Cousteau
That's cool.
on that little island in
That's very cool.
1980. And so he pulls up on his, it's not Calypso, but it was a big ass boat like Calypso with all these divers. And we're like, hey man, we're stuck here. Can we come help you out on the boat for a little bit? He's like, sure. So we got to hang out with him and on that
That is
boat, filling
so
tanks and
cool.
stuff. I mean, it
But
that's
that's
just
the
how
stuff. That's the stuff that happens on these islands, though. That type stuff.
exactly.
I'm. The other thing, I wanted to finish before I forget about Joost Van Dyke. One of my probably my favorite place on earth is a place called the Soggy Dollar Bar on Joost Van Dyke. I don't know if you remember it, but you have to anchor whatever boat you have, and it's usually a fairly big boat because it's not, you've got to take some kind of good sized boat over there. I mean, not a little dinghy, and but you have to anchor out, and then you have to jump in and swim to the Soggy Dollar Bar where they have like burgers, chicken, and the original painkiller, two painkillers, and you do not remember your name. But the Soggy Dollar Bar, because to go in and pay for it, your dollars get soggy because you got to swim. So you actually have to put your money in a plastic bag because you have to swim to the bar. So that, and it's so beautiful, beautiful beaches. Anybody listening, look up Soggy Dollar Bar on Joost Van Dyke. It's spectacular.
I don't. It might have been there when we were there, but I don't remember. We hit
Yeah,
so many crazy little spots like that.
right.
I love it. I worship that. So how does it feel? There's now a million questions, of course, in my head. How did it feel to be the guy who got the call when something was going to be built in the Caribbean? It's like you got to
Well,
call Gooding.
I think most of it is that I was crazy enough to schlep my family to some Caribbean island in the middle of nowhere. And they're like, yeah, let's call Gooding. He'll probably come down here. Once you get in that space, because it's a small space, you just kind of, people just know that you did. And we did fairly well, even though some of them were really tough times. And I think, it was just one of those things, try to treat people nice and do your job. And I think a lot of it just had to do is that, again, they knew I was crazy enough to maybe bring my family there and, got lucky enough to go there. So,
Oh, but what experiences you can't even pay for those.
hmm.
Didn't you do high end yacht sales for a while too?
Well, we sold those slips in Virgin Gorda and St. Kitts. We sold slips. I mean, that was our main, we sold the yacht slips along with real estate. So,
Wow.
yeah, in real estate, for those of us that remember taking our tests, we had to study all these things that we never put into practice in real estate. And one of the things I remember is there was a lot of studying around riparian rights, which is
Right.
water rights. There's a
Right.
different type of water rights. And, nobody even used the word riparian. And then in St. Kitts, we built this area where you actually had riparian rights on the bay. And so, like, every other word that I was using was riparian because I finally got to use it. I was like, well, you have riparian rights here. And they go, what does that mean? I go, we have water rights.
Yeah,
It was the
we
first time in my career that I got to use the word riparian.
in 35 years, practicing real estate out in the desert, I've never had to use the
No,
word riparian. I
there's not a
remember
lot
it
of,
from the test, though.
yeah, there's not a lot of riparian rights in the
No,
desert.
but there
Yeah.
are some alluvium fans, by the way.
Mhm.
Which are
True.
another thing on the test. Porcupine Creek is actually built on an alluvium fan, and I don't know how Blixith got to do all those land swaps and get that place built because it was never supposed to be built up there. And
Yeah.
now, obviously, Oracle, Mr. Oracle,
Larry Ellison.
Larry Ellison owns it now, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's a spectacular property.
Yeah.
Uh,
I've
it's it's
only seen pictures of it. Yeah.
and the funny thing is, my wife was friends with Idra because she volunteered a lot for Shelter for the Storm when Idra Blixer was running it, and so we got to go there when they do events and stuff. But the funny thing was is they let him build the house up there and some properties, but they said you'll never ever ever make this a resort. And it has one of the most spectacular golf courses you'll ever play. The golf course is ridiculously beautiful.
That's
And
what I've
so
heard.
he kept trying to get it to be a resort so he could sell like one or two properties on each hole, right? That's all you needed because they'd be 10 million a piece. Well, of course, Ellison buys it, and sure enough, boom, the thing's a resort. It's like son of a but it's a spectacular resort. So
That's what I've seen
so
pictures. It looks amazing.
how did you so your folks are in Maryland to go
Right.
way back.
That's where I grew up.
So you grew up in Maryland just because your family was from the East Coast, your mom and
Hmm.
dad East Coasters?
Yep. Grew up with five sisters and a brother. Um, Brother is in North Carolina right now, I believe, and my sisters, unfortunately, one passed away a little over a year ago, but the rest are all back in the Maryland. One's in Pennsylvania, the rest in Maryland. And I met a gal, my first wife, who came to work for the Marriott Corporation from California. And the Marriott's headquarters after college is in Bethesda, Maryland. So I met her and had never been to California. We came out to California in the winter one year to visit her family. It was, I don't know, January or something. And I was playing golf with um, her dad, my ex-father-in-law, and it was, I've never played golf in January in Maryland, and it's like
Right.
70 degrees. And on the back nine, you'll appreciate this, Gary, on the back nine, this couple said, "Hey, can we join? We're just playing nine." "Yeah, come on, join us." And we started talking to them. And remember, this is like my second day in California ever. And I was just mesmerized. And they go, "Yeah, we're just playing nine holes. We were skiing this morning." And I go, "You were skiing?" They go, "Yeah, look up there. That's a place called Big Bear." Because we were up there. And I'm like, and back then I loved to ski. I'm like, I got to move here. I just, I'm skiing. These people are skiing and golfing in the same day, so that really got me hooked and just fell in love with California. And I've had some detours, but I'm back.
Well, where we live, you can literally get up and surf in the morning. Guys get out there before the sun comes up and surf. And then you can leave the beach and play 18 holes. And then you can drive up and night ski. So
It's true.
in the same day you can surf, golf, and ski. I don't know many places on the planet you could do that. I mean, literally because they're just hours apart from each
Yeah.
other. It's amazing on that. So what was your job before you got into real estate? What'd you do before real estate?
Just a bunch of different things. To be honest, I sold some health insurance for a while for a company called New York Life. I got into real estate when I was about 22 or 23,
Wow.
so pretty young. I've been doing it, like 40 years. And um, just really don't remember hardly doing anything else. My sister said, "You'd probably be decent at real estate. You should get your license." So I did. And I worked for a developer in Arlington, Virginia, still to this day, one of the smartest people I ever worked with. And, for me, he was super smart and I learned a lot. But he said to me one time, "You're never going to be at my house for lunch. He goes, you're never going to come to my house for cocktails. I'm not going to have dinner with you." He goes, "We're not going to be friends." He goes, "This is business." And actually, as my career's gone on, I'm exact opposite. I learned a lot from him in real estate, but to me, it was like, that's not how I want to do it. And so whatever leadership, quote unquote, style I've developed, I want to like everybody, and I like to help them any way I can. And so, I mean, I learned not what to do with them as well as a lot of great real estate knowledge, but that's not my style. I actually think, real estate can be a lonely, I know you don't want to talk a lot about real estate, but it can be lonely. And I think the more spirit and fun you can put into it, this guy, he did tell me one thing. He goes, "You don't have to eat your children to be a successful real estate agent." And I was like, that's true. You can actually be a nice guy, and you can, nice guys sometimes can win, you know, with that old saying, whoever said it, "Nice guys finish last." I don't believe in that.
Well, you are a super nice guy, my friend. I love these stories about the islands. We could talk about these forever, and you've had a lot of fun, but you've had some hardship too, and I think it's another reason why I wanted to have you on. Real estate's a real tough business, crash
It
and
is.
burn. We talked about being in St. Kitts and the Great Recession kicks and then being in the Caymans and freaking COVID hits and
Yeah,
wipes out that project and stuff like that. And real estate's just a tough cyclical business. I
it
mean,
is.
it is not always the funnest way to make a living, trust me. And many times I have not made a living. But also Jenny. I mean, I love Jenny. She did an amazing job with that Windermere office. It's still one of the prettiest offices. But she had
Agree.
a really tough accident. I mean, you almost lost Jenny, didn't you?
Up in Bend, Oregon, where we go back and forth, she had a 50th birthday party for one of her good friends, and four or five gals went up, and my daughter and I went and got a hotel and gave them the house for the weekend. It was a big deal. And the last day, before they all went home, the next day, it was a Sunday, they went on a snowmobile trip, and it was snowing really, really hard. They were trying to stay up with the guide, and a couple of miles from the finish. And her friend, one of those snowmobiles broke down. They're literally in the middle of the forest. So there was no way to really get another snowmobile out there. So Jenny volunteered to give up her snowmobile and jump on the back with her friend. And they were going through this really, I don't know if it was a whiteout, but it was a pretty good snow. And her friend was coming up on a tree, and she veered, and Jenny flew off into the tree. And she got pretty messed up. She got pretty broken, broke her arm in 5 places. She broke her back. She broke a couple of ribs, bruises everywhere. Had to have surgery the next day. And yeah, so she's still got some aches and pains, but fortunately, she's wearing a helmet, of course, and didn't hit her head, which is really fortunate. She hit the side of her body. But I won't use the word she said in the hospital. I'll make it a little more PC, but we're in the hospital. She was in the hospital about 8 days and then rehab for maybe another week or 10. And then she didn't walk for maybe another month or so. But we're in the hospital, and I'm in the hospital with her every night because she can't move, Gary. She can't do anything. And she says she's on oxycodone and morphine, and she's on all this stuff. She goes, "You're being such a good husband. You're here every night." I go, "Honey, that's what I'm supposed to do." She goes, "Spending the night." I go, "Of course, you would do it. I'm going to do it." She goes, "All we've been doing this whole time," she goes, "for our lives, if we've just been taking care of the kids." She goes, "When I get better, we're going to take care of each other." She goes, "F those kids." And by the way, she's the greatest mother in the world, but she was high as a kite. And that was my big takeaway from the hospital.
Well, it's funny. I mean, like the guy said about your kids. I mean, I know people who in real estate, we both know thousands of realtors, right? And that's why I stay away from them. But I love them all and I respect them all. But I mean, just for this, but you really can. Real estate can just tear up families, man. I mean, these people who just bury themselves in this business, they don't go to the kids' games. I mean, the whole reason I got into real estate was the freedom of to be able to do that, right? I could be at all my kids' sporting events. I could be at their theater stuff. I could volunteer for stuff. And my wife April was super involved with all that stuff, PTA president stuff. And that's the best part of it. But
Yeah.
a lot of people don't, right? I mean, they bury themselves in this real estate business
Yeah.
and
I think a lot of people, Gary, have a lot of trouble with the balance and being able to say, "I can't do this because at first," and I was guilty of that when I first started selling, I want to look at property at 3:30 on Saturday, and you'd be like, "Oh crap, it's Griffin's soccer game." But then you do it because you just, and I think after a while, you just realize it's not worth it. And then when you start saying to people, "I can't show you property at 3:30 Saturday because my son has a soccer game," the great majority of people go, "Well, of course you can't. We'll do it Sunday." And if they say, "Well, that's the only time I have," then you might not want to work with them anyway.
yeah.
That's kind of the way I look at it. But it took me a little while to figure that out. Like
Well, it's
any
like I was
stupid
telling
young
these kids
realtor.
yesterday. I'm still involved with the board, and I'm on the leadership council, and I on a couple different committees. And these two kids, we were brainstorming. They're newer agents and stuff, and they're like, "Well, Gary, you don't understand. That's it's different now. I mean, like you get a Zillow lead, you got to go. I mean, you just got to get out and meet them, or they'll call someone else." And I said, first of all, the old saying, "It's different now." It never is,
No.
right? And secondly, are you going to run your business, or is your business going to run you?
Yeah.
Are you chasing that deal, or are you going to build the business for yourself and decide how you want to run your business? And they looked at me like I had four eyeballs.
Yeah.
Like the concept was completely bizarre to them. Like, we can run our business? I'm like, yeah, you can run your business, but more importantly, you can run your life. And don't let this business run your life. That's why people last 6 months, right? 7, 8 months.
Yeah.
Not only because
Well,
we don't make any money,
in my
but
40 years in real
it'll run your
estate,
life.
yeah, my 40 years in real estate, a lot has changed, but a lot has stayed the same. I mean, it's still a people business, it's still a relationship business. And, people that get successful can fall into the trap of not finding time for their family. And, you got to figure that out. So you got to have
Did
some balance.
what did Jenny do as her career?
So Jenny was a hairdresser in a high-end salon in Los Gatos up in Northern California.
Wow.
And then actually I met her and hired her as a real estate agent, but I did all the right stuff. I dated her, I married her, and I had babies with her. So I did all the right stuff. And she was
You weren't
okay.
like the rest of those sleazy brokers who were just sleeping
Yeah.
with their agents.
But she was actually our rookie of the year. But after a couple of years, we had a Quentin, who's great now, was ADHD and challenged, and we actually made a decision for her to stay home. So she stayed home with the kids for like 10 years. And then of course we had Shay a couple of years later. But and then she got back into what she, took some schooling 4 years ago, and she's done great. She has her own interior design business now. She has a couple of employees. She's done projects. She's done 10 or 12 real estate offices. She's done marketing companies, insurance companies. She's done ranches in Bend. She did a couple of houses in Wyoming. So she's done a lot in California. So she's got a pretty good business and doing really, really well. And she's actually, I know a lot of people are like, oh, my wife's an interior designer. Yeah, whatever. Jenny actually is talented, like the Windermere office in Palm Desert. That has stood the test of time.
Yes.
She did that in 2000, and she worked with the contractor. She just doesn't order furniture. She worked with the contractor to design the offices. I remember we were designing the office for you, and I remember you wanted a desk that moved up and down, and so she worked it, and she worked the plugs, she worked the lighting. So she's not just somebody who has great taste, but if you walk in that Windermere office in Palm Desert, you'll see that she's got talent, because that office is pretty much the same 10 years later, and it looks great. And we're gonna, as you know, we're gonna be in Palm Desert with my new company pretty soon, so that'll be exciting to be back there.
Yeah, and it's true about that office. I mean, it's funny. You and I know this from being in real estate. You could walk into a home or an office, you go 1978, 1990, 1997, because that's the trend. It's like from 2020 to 2024, it was like you're going to have gray walls and you're going to have white countertops, right? I mean,
Right.
and you're going to have those fake wood gray floors. I mean, every freaking flip, every house had the same. You go, okay, that's a 2022 house, right? But you walk in that Windermere office and you go, wow, that it's a timeless look. It's a
Yeah.
sexy look, and it's a mid-century modern kind of Palm Springsy without being over the toppy.
Yeah.
But it's she did a really good job with that. It's really pretty with
And
that.
she
But
did the Palm.
she's better, huh? She's feeling a lot better from
Yeah,
that.
that was 4 years ago. She's still has her aches and pains, and she's got 5 plates in her left arm, and I think that when she goes through the airports, all the bells go off. So, but she's really good. We're very fortunate. She's living a completely normal life.
Yeah, it's kind of like the plate in my head. Every time I go through that airport thing, the plate in my head goes off. Now, so Shay just went off to college. Is that right? Is she?
Yep. Shay
So
is
now you guys are empty nesters. So when she says "F these kids," we're doing our own thing. You guys can do your own thing, and then you went and jumped in another career with taking over another company. What were you thinking?
and it's in, I tell you this, Gary, and I know we're short on time, but when I was at Desert Horizons in my 20s selling new homes, I saw these people that were like my age and even your age, or a little younger than me, that stopped working, and their life stopped. And I mean, some of them just died. And I subscribe to the Clint Eastwood theory of not letting the old man in. You got to keep moving, you got to keep working, you got to keep being relevant in some fashion. And so I can't imagine retiring, because I just love it. And but I saw the people that thrived when I was in my mid-20s in the desert were the older people, were the ones that kept busy. If they weren't working, they were on boards, they were giving their time to charities. They might have started another business. Maybe they opened up the 47th jewelry store on El Paseo. They kept going. And the ones that just played golf twice a week and just puttered around the house, it didn't seem like they were happy to me. And I never forgot that. I never, and it's true. I never forgot that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I'm the same way. I couldn't imagine not working or not doing stuff. When I was waiting tables at Wally's Desert Turtle, which is a really high end restaurant out here, I'd see these multimillionaires and billionaires from the Vintage Club just as miserable as can be. I mean, just bored, miserable. It was just that I just don't, I just don't ever want to do that again. But so real quick, and then we'll finish up. So now you are taking over what with Century 21? What's the deal with Century 21 now?
All right, so Century 21 affiliated, which is the largest Century 21 in the world. We have like 90 offices. We're the largest franchise. So great young guys in their 40s from Michigan and Wisconsin. They bought a company in Southern California called Century 21 Award. Now it's Century 21 affiliated. They were looking for somebody to run their California operation. Fortunately, my non-compete from selling my old Windermere franchise was getting ready to be up. I got introduced to them, loved them, thought they were great guys, very growth oriented, where other companies are kind of reducing their footprint. We've just opened a new office in Carlsbad. We're moving to Palm Desert. And they're just good guys. And they needed somebody to run their California operation. We have 15 offices with Palm Desert. That'll be our 15th office. They're all in Southern California. Got about 700 agents. And it's just the way I want it to be. And they're just great guys. And we got great agents, great staff, and I'm just enjoying it.
Well, they couldn't have found a better guy. I know it was someone said, "Hey, call Gooding. He'll do get his butt out there." But you're not on an island now. You're back in San
No,
Diego.
I actually got a
love.
call about a month ago to go to Cabo, and I'm like, I'm done. No, not doing that. I'm really happy here. It was a great experience, but and like I say, you're in that space. People call you. Maybe Gooding's stupid enough to come down here, but not this time.
Well, you're a terrific guy. Like I said, we crossed paths over the years, and I always just had the most respect for you. You're always a straight guy, a good guy, and yeah, when I got that call and you said, "Hey, I'm taking over this Windermere. You want to go?" I'm like, "Done. Yeah. When do you want me to?" You go, "Well, the place isn't open yet, but I'm just checking out." I go, I'll be there tomorrow, dude. I love you. You're awesome. And the truth of the matter is, not to disparage anybody, I wouldn't mention names or anything, but everyone came there for you. No one knew who the hell Windermere was. No one really gave a poop. It was a great tie-in, for Seattle and the desert, but no one. I didn't know what Windermere was. I could care less. But I came there because of you, and everyone came there because of you. And then when you parted ways, it was never the same. It was never the same. I left not shortly after you because I was trying to figure out what to do, but I knew the writing was on the wall for me and a lot of people, Brian, because you just have that ability to, like you said, have fun. You do all these goofy parties, treat people with massive respect. That's the thing. When you deal with Brian Gooding, you're going to be treated with respect. You can feel that the man cares. And so
I think I've fooled a lot of people over the years.
well, you can't love everybody because there's a lot of jerks out there. There's a lot of douchebags out there. So you can't love everybody.
Well, we're gonna have we're gonna have like a little party to announce our coming down in December. I'll make sure you get an invite, buddy.
I'll be there for sure. So I always end up my podcasts. People who've watched podcasts know that I do this, but anyone who hasn't seen it doesn't know that I do this. But I always ask people a last question, and it doesn't have to be about your travels or your trips, or it could be or real estate or stuff like that. But you've been around, you've had ups and downs and things like that. But if you were going to leave our guests with one thought, something that means something to you, something that's special to you that you'd like to share, what might that one thought be?
I think back to all the great people that I've met over the years that I've learned from. And I think it's just, you said it earlier, is just treat people with respect and realize that, whatever they might be, acting in front of you, they may have some things going on in their life that you don't know about. And you got to give everybody the benefit of the doubt and just treat them with respect. And, if an old mentor of mine said, you're going to come across everybody in your life again, and they're going to remember how you treated them. And it's kind of true now, coming back to San Diego in the desert. So that's it. Just treat everybody with respect. And if you do that, I think you're going to have a better life.
Well, you are certainly the poster child for that. And, you didn't burn any bridges. You didn't throw anybody under the bus. You didn't disparage anybody. You were always full of grace, like you always are. And that's why you always come out on top.
Well, thanks, Big G. I'm looking forward to seeing you when I'm down there.
Yep, I can look forward to it. All right, Big Brian, you're awesome. Everybody, this is Brian Gooding. He's now running the Century 21 affiliated.
Yeah. Fine Homes and Estates. Yeah.
Fine Homes and Estates.
Luxury part of it.
Where are you going to be on El Paseo, by the way? Did you already?
We have a letter of intent right now on El Paseo, and we're working through the conditional permit and all that. So hopefully we'll have an official announcement by the 1st of December.
You'll be back on El Paseo. So anybody who hears this that has any interest in real estate, I started with Century 21 back in 1990. It's a great organization. They're worldwide, but it doesn't matter what the name on the company is. If Brian Gooding is involved, it's going to be a good thing. So thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. And people could find you on, we'll post it on the podcast, but where could people find you just if they wanted a question to you?
Again, the easiest way to get a hold of me is to text me, 760-585-8868. I'm on Facebook. Brian.Gooding at C21affiliated.com. But yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of my old friends in the desert over the coming months.
Awesome. I look forward to it too. All right, buddy. Thank you so much for sitting in. I really appreciate it. And I will see you on the other side.
All right. It was fun. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.